kind of obsessed.
We can hear frustration in her voice, even though it's reasonable for a mother to check up on her daughter who's traveling in another part of the world, traveling alone. It's perfectly normal to ask if she's okay. Claire's reaction is just to ignore this call and not have to deal with her mother's emotions. This is probably because her mother has always been overprotective of her, smothering her with her love and care so much that Claire had to leave Australia and travel as far as Berlin to get away from her. It feels like Claire's mom always used to stop her from doing what she wanted, and Claire's frustrated that even in Germany she can't seem to get away from her mom. Andy notices how emotional she got when she received the call. He takes note that she's not on good terms with her mom. If she was, she would have answered the phone without hesitation.
Does she know you're here?
A very important question for him, because if she doesn't, then it will be so much easier for Andy.
Yeah.
After a long pause, she responds. Why this long pause? It feels like maybe her mother didn't know Claire went traveling, or had a vague idea of where she was going. Sometimes with controlling parents, it's easier not to tell them the truth than have to deal with their emotions, because they panic and it affects the child. They also try to do everything to stop the child from doing whatever the child wants, but they don't approve of. So it's very likely that she didn't give her mom the exact details of her journey.
I always come here to complicate life.
Andy's making his cute mistakes again, on purpose.
What?
You'd say contemplate.
Ah, yeah, right. Ah, yeah, right.
And how can we blame him? To have this beautiful girl smiling at you this way, he just needs this smile, her eyes on him. And he knows he will definitely get it this way. Andy likes what works. He likes predictability, because this way he can control everything. And just a second later, something unexpected happens.
Oh my God.
For a moment, he's truly happy, and not because he's fulfilled his ill-minded plan, but simply because he's having a real connection with Claire.
Yeah, he likes you.
He feels confident. It feels right for him to make her feel safe, even though it's a small thing as giving her a protective hug when she's terrified of a barking dog. Andy, this can be your life. If you let yourself feel these feelings, Claire trusts you, and you don't have to betray her trust. You can trust her too. And your love interest doesn't have to be Claire, who is a tourist and will eventually end her journey and go back home. You can find a girl who lives in Berlin, just like you, who has a steady job just like you, the girl who isn't going anywhere. If you stop trying to control everything so hard and just let yourself be and let others be the way they want to be, then you will feel alive, just like in this moment when there's a beautiful and genuine smile on your face.
Hi. Hi. Oh my God.
But he can't afford this luxury, and he quickly shakes this feeling off. Even on the physical level, he shrugs his shoulders, as if pulling himself back to his sick world, where he has to act according to his plan. He continues with his questions, because he has to know.
So why did you come to Berlin?
I was working for a real estate company, taking photos.
She tells him everything.
You know those life experiences that people talk about all the time?
She's brutally honest, and it's very reckless to tell so much to a stranger.
I wanted to do that, so I booked a ticket and put my stuff in storage and
Came here.
She has so much trust in the world, all because her mom was protecting her from that world. She left her job, gave up her rented apartment, and put her stuff into storage. No job, no place to live, no boyfriend, no plan but to have some life experiences. And she's not on good terms with her mom, Otherwise, she would have answered the call. And it's not clear whether or not her mom even knows that she's here. That's what happens when a child who grew up with overprotective parents finds himself out in the real world, totally unprepared. Claire probably tried to tolerate her mother's constant control, but one day she just gave up and decided to change everything in her life, including giving up her job, the apartment she probably rented, and just leave to get these experiences that she couldn't get because her mother was always there, shielding her from life. It's very common for children of overprotective parents to make sudden changes that seem irrational and reckless. Partly it's because of the parenting they had, because their parents protected them so fiercely that they didn't have to think for themselves, so they don't have the skill of analyzing and predicting the outcome of their actions. They simply didn't develop it. What happens a lot is the child who wants to rebel in his teens can't do that because his parents suppress him, and then these grown-up children do that later in life. I think it's what's happening to Claire during this trip.
Pretty predictable.
Maybe brave?
That's so predictable, she says. She's insecure. She tries to laugh at herself first, to judge herself first before he does. She does that on autopilot because she's so used to being constantly criticized by her parents. Andy falls in love every time he meets a girl, and I think in this moment he laments that he can't be normal and just enjoy these life experiences, as Claire said, while they last, and be vulnerable, and yes, maybe get your heart broken, but be real in the process. He can't. He's scared of being left behind, just like he was left by his mother in his childhood. He never wants to experience that terrifying feeling again.
There's a bar upstairs, if you wanted to go.
I'm afraid I have to meet someone.
They have spent the whole day together. When they met, it was daytime, and now it's dark. But now he has to meet someone. That's really strange, and of course Claire assumed that he was single, but now he's trying to make it look like he has someone waiting for him.
Otherwise...
Yeah.
She's confused, but tries to hide her disappointment.
Going to Dresden tomorrow.
Dresden?
Yeah.
Why Dresden?
Telling her he has to go, but touching her hair at the same time, giving her mixed signals, saying no with his mouth but yes with his body, almost kissing her and then pulling away with a chuckle. He's playing hot and cold, playing with her head. He's confusing her, so she would think about him later. Now you want me even more, right? His eyes are saying to her.
It's nice to meet you.
She's very nervous because of his mind games, almost shaking with emotions that overwhelm her. It's understandable. Everything was leading up to some continuation, just like when they crossed the road together and then awkwardly said goodbye. Back in hostel, she's looking at the pictures she made during the day, and she spots Andy on some of them. Her first instinct is to frown. She's sensing that the probability of that is super low, that it's really odd, but then she decides that it's just a cute coincidence, or even fate. And she's probably thinking that they need to overcome all the obstacles in their way and be together. He hinted that he has a girlfriend, but even that doesn't stop her. The harder he is to catch, the more enticing he is for her. This trait of hers also might be stemming from her upbringing. She's so used to wanting something forbidden that she's just not interested in something that she can easily get. Who knows, maybe if Andy was a normal guy who would show interest in her, take her number, arrange a meeting with her, take her on a proper date, maybe she wouldn't be interested then. 'Cause that's too easy. Judging by her reaction to being rejected by Andy, I'm almost certain that she was raised by a dominant, overprotective, criticizing mother. The next day she wakes up and she no longer wants to leave for Dresden. Instead, she's walking the same streets she did the day before, looking for Andy. She probably didn't sleep very well. She's distracted. She almost got run over. She's not paying attention to the road, just looking for Andy. And she finds him in the same bookstore she went to the day before, and he's holding the same book that she did, looking at her favorite painting. Nope, that's definitely not strange. That's destiny? Yes. You know, it reminds me of teenagers on their first date and they find out that they have the same favorite music band and they automatically think, right, we were meant for each other.
I thought you wanted to leave.
Did the boy give you that?
So many doors, a very quiet place. No one lives here but Andy. Sounds concerning? Nope. Claire is interested in the texture of these dilapidated walls.
They don't open.
When she's standing facing the window, her back to him, she's reaching out her hands to him. I think it's what she truly wants, for him to take control, to take the lead. Maybe she doesn't understand this mentally, but on the physical level, she can feel it in the form of her sexual needs and desires. She wants to express them now during this trip, this wild trip, the trip she had so many hopes for, her search for life experiences. Maybe she wanted to be this way sexually before, but always suppressed it, thought it was wrong or something like that. This trip was very significant for her. It was for sure her rebelling against everything, against the system, the rules, her family. She probably never had a teenage crisis where teens test their boundaries because of her mother, who was constantly shielding her from the world and robbing her of every possibility to take the initiative. And like a blind kitten, she started listening to her instincts. And because this newfound freedom was so new to her, she hasn't yet got used to it and was being too reckless. This always happens when people stay under their parents' protection for too long. Once they break free, they think that now they are following their heart, but they end up in the same situation as before. They find other quote-unquote parents who are even worse. It takes time to figure out who you really are and what you really want in life. Living according to your parents' beliefs and trying to please them and seeking their approval makes your true self hide deep inside. Like with any habit, you need time to make it stick, to develop the skill of doing it over and over again. Taking responsibility for your life is what makes you an adult, not running away from your overprotective family and wandering around Berlin and pining over a handsome German guy. But if only Claire knew that. We can't blame her, of course. Everything she did because she didn't know any better. But we do, and we can learn from her experience and her mistakes.
No one will hear you. No one will hear you.
She spends the night with him and thinks that everything is going to be just fine.
I wish I could stay.
That he's going to be okay with her leaving, and she thinks it will be a great memory of hers. But no, there are consequences of your actions. And since she wasn't paying attention to all of the signs that should have warned her to stay away from Andy, and keep in mind that she's not used to taking care of herself, to make life decisions like an adult, to be responsible, all because she was under her mother's wing for too long, that's why she didn't develop this skill. Since she wasn't careful, life has prepared a major life lesson for her.
I didn't think I'd be able to get back in, and then I realized that I couldn't even leave.
Hey, you can leave now. Hey, you can leave now.
He's saying, you can leave now. No, that would be too easy. Why leave now? She wants to continue playing this game.
Did you lock me in?
Yes, sure. But next time, I'll tie you to the bed.
She hasn't yet had enough warning signs. The next morning, Claire sleeps in again. Although to avoid yesterday's situation, it would have been wise to leave the house with him. This way, she wouldn't have to return him the key when she left for Dresden. But now Claire probably doesn't want to leave anymore. Her plans are so flexible. Claire goes back to sleep and lets him leave without checking whether or not the key he left actually fits. Because she trusts him. But what has he done to earn her trust? How can you trust a person you just met? He owes you nothing. You had sex with him, you like the same painters, and this proves what exactly? On the contrary, he did many things during their short acquaintance to destroy her trust. He gaslighted her a few times, he ruined her day by locking her inside without a key. He hinted that he's seen someone.
Afraid I have to meet someone. Otherwise.
But next time, I'll tie you to the bed.
I'll tie you to the bed. Tie you to the bed.
So she becomes Andy's captive. At first, she makes attempts to break free.
Done.
But then she becomes more and more used to her new role. In a way, this role is not new for her. It's familiar. Metaphorically speaking, she was always tied up in her childhood, suppressing her desires, not being able to think for herself. Having set free from her parents' care, she found another parent who turned out to be a captor. She's so perfect for this role.
I miss my mom.
I miss my mom. Something a child would say, not a 20-something woman. Now is not the time for missing your mom. It's not productive. At this point, she should be thinking, how to get away from this wicked man. Her childish behavior only proves that she can't control her emotions. She doesn't understand yet how serious her situation is.
Can I have my necklace back?
It's magic thinking in her. Her mother's necklace won't help her. Instead, she should be thinking of all the ways she can break free from this apartment. When things don't go her way, she panics and acts hysterically. Maybe when her mom found out that she was going to Germany, she had the same hysterical reaction. He's cutting her nails, back to childhood. Even more control than she had before. Now even her basic hygiene is regulated by him. Throughout the film, we often see her covering her mouth. Suppressing her feelings and desires is natural for her because she's been living this way for too long. She needs time to learn how to live differently. Claire understands Andy and sympathizes with him, not just because she's used to being his captive, but also because she's used to having her will suppressed by her overprotective parents. Because this smothering type of love is all that she knows. When Andy leaves and he's not back for a few days because his dad died, she does nothing. She's completely lost. She can't do anything, can't take care of herself. And then she finally cooks for herself, but everything is a mess. She's helpless. She even wants him back. At one point, she even accepts that she's going to die. I think that it's very significant that she has so little strength in her to fight, so little survival skills in her, that she'd rather give up and die than die fighting. She's weak because she never fully had any control over her life. Her parents always took care of her. She never had to worry about anything. I think she was able to set free because she finally realized how serious this situation can be for her. She's seen Andy kill someone in front of her. She knows what he's capable of. She understood that he asked her to gather her things for a reason. He was going to get rid of her, just like he did with the Canadian girl before her. The shock of realization of all of that mobilized her strength, and her survival instinct finally kicked in, and she found a way to escape. Once she's out, let's hope she realizes why this terrifying experience happened to her. I hope she doesn't just blame Andy for what happened for the rest of her life and live in fear. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you found useful in this film analysis. And until next time, bye!
Andy.
Claire.
Nice to meet you.